First of all, the late 40s, 50s, 60s, we did a lot of television shows in addition to news programs. And because I worked cheap, I think I was involved in most of them. And I had to learn meteorology in order to get a license to drive airplanes. So one afternoon at the old station down at 5th and Ash, you remember? Somebody wanted me to demonstrate for a visiting group the glass weatherboard, where you stood behind the board, looked as though you were drawing backwards, and you weren't, because black and white cameras, you can reverse the image. So I was doing the German accent and clowning around a little bit and saying, over here, that's wet. You know why that's wet? Because it's the ocean. It's full of water. That's why. You know, you wouldn't notice if I didn't tell you. Somebody says, okay, you can start doing that on the 11. I said, what? But what a group it was at 11. We had the late Lyle Bond on sports. We had a little beady-eyed kid doing features called Regis Philbin, and he'd get very unhappy. My eyes aren't beady. And then, of course, Bobby Regan, who's retired for many, many years now. And Bobby had a voice, a laugh that's, I always thought was like a truck motor trying to start with a weak battery. You know. And one night at the end of the show, and we'd have fun, we'd run 5 minutes over, it didn't matter. And the phone rang, and I picked it up, the meanest voice I ever heard in my life. Says, hey, Dale. I says, yeah. You want some booze balls? I said, some what? He said, booze balls. I said, okay. Yeah, sure, it's all right. He said, put them in the refrigerator. I said, who is this? He said, none of your business. Boom, down went the receiver. I didn't think any more about it. About 2 days later, along came a box. Showed up out in the lobby, just like this, you know. Had a card, had my name on a card, nothing in the card. And I opened it up, and here were these, I was to find out later, would be actually chrome-plated saccharin hand grenades is what they were. And I want to show you what they're like when you cut into one before I bite it. Because they had to be kept cold, and inside is a cherry. And I was to find out that that is the potent part right there. This is the creamiest, butteriest, marvelous candy you ever tasted in your life. So I took one of these things out on the set with me, and I opened it up and I bit into it. Now, we had no air conditioning. And for a moment, it was just the most delicious, and and the sweat started to come out, the tie come off, and I got the giggles. And I called Bobby Regan over and said, here, take a bite of this. And he did, and he went, That went through the whole show. And he's trying to do a straight story. It was a terrible accident at El Cajon Boulevard today. And it kept going that way. At the end of the show, you called and you said, hey, my grandmother made rum balls, and we had these whiskey wafers, and you'd send them in. But nothing compared to these, you know? And you wanted the recipe. I said, I don't know. Forgot about it. Next year, the same box arrived. Nobody ever saw them being delivered. Even set guards out in the lobby. And took them out, played around with it, had all these fun things going. Boy, if these are my Mary C's, her eyes would be crossed, you know? And we go on with Reagan with and Regis Philbin's eyes getting beadier every year. About 7 years of this went by. One day the things arrived again, and here was the card. It had like a lady's handwriting in it. It was a son of a gun. It was a note, and it said, Dear Bob, you'll never know how much pleasure your gruff-voiced friend had watching you receive his special Christmas candies. He just recently passed away. One of the last things he said was, make sure Dale gets his booze balls.
Oh.
Whoa, so that just changed the complexion of the whole thing, from the silliness to something like this. And so it went until this year. I thought, well, they're just not going to come. It has to end. 20 minutes ago, they did arrive. So, my friend, wherever you are, one more time. One more time. That is so great. And I know I could find out who you are and everything about you, but I don't want to. You know why? It's none of my business. Merry Christmas, friends. Merry Christmas.